Here we go again. I'm gonna fucking roll today. This is episode 14, and in this discussion, I want to talk about being elite. In fact, the title of this little discussion is going to be elite, fuck average. Now, there's a strong trend of anti-elitism growing in the world. You know, it's prevalent in all sorts of circles, and in fact, it's really prevalent in the Bitcoiner circles that I'm a part of. And, you know, whilst I understand where it comes from, because it's been poorly defined, it is completely fucking misguided. You know, the word elite conjures up all sorts of interesting mental concepts from like Wall Street bankers and, you know, in suits at charity balls and, you know, crooked CEOs mingling with politicians. You know, and of course, the rich white men in the back room, and you know, even lizard people who control the world from behind the scenes. And, you know, and look, over the years, I've subscribed to the idea of screw the elite, driven primarily by my, you know, I've got an anti-authoritarian bent. If you haven't noticed yet by watching some of these videos. You know, I'm a supporter of personal liberties, etc. You know, I've been listening to Rage Against the Machine. You know, like, well, I won't do what you tell me. No, I mean, it's even in the goddamn entry to my videos here. You know, and all against a backdrop of me personally being an individual who's come from the bottom, at least relatively speaking, in the country I grew up in. So it's been, you know, it's been an important concept for me. But you know, as part of my continual, you know, development, I like to, you know, dig into these things because, you know, on the one hand, and particularly Bitcoiners, you know, we support freedom, we support liberty, we support rewarding the best of us, you know, which naturally creates Pareto type distributions, you know, these 80-20 things, which are fractal in society, in biology, and everything, you know, they exist all everywhere. So, you know, on one hand, we support these things, but on the other hand, we're running around saying down with the elites, which at times makes us sound like fucking Bernie Sanders type socialists trying to bring down the establishment, you know, capitalism and the billionaires. And, you know, this is the problem with not defining things properly at the outset. You know, in fact, we end up, you know, the danger here is there's a couple things I'll mention in a minute, but we group truly like inspirational people with the fucking parasites. And, you know, I know in some senses this might seem like semantics. You might be thinking, well, what's this moron doing a video for, you know, about some semantics? And I'll tell you why it's really, 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 really important, because we don't want to conflate, you know, liberty, the best of us, you know, striving to be better, people that were inspired by, you know, individualism, with the parasitic, rent-seeking, leeching and mooching that, you know, what we think of generally as elitists really are. You know, we don't want to give them that label, and I wrote an article about this called "In Support of the Elite." You know, I don't know if I'll put it on this video, but it'll be linked in the show notes at least. Or if you're listening to audio, it'll definitely be in the show notes. And as usual, you know, I think what I tried to do in that article, it's a much longer expose on, you know, my attempt to delineate between the difference of elite and parasites. But in doing so, I hope for two things. Number one, that you don't get caught up in the trap of resenting those with more than you. Because that's not only dangerous, but it's destructive, and it doesn't help you nor society. In fact, it breeds, you know, it'll send you down the path of fucking collectivism and socialism. It'll send you down the path of wanting to bring other people down instead of you rising up. Very, very dangerous place to be. And number two, I hope that it inspires you to choose to become elite in your own way. to embrace what is unique about you, to choose to become the best version of yourself and make an impact on the world in a way that only you can do. This is what it takes to push the human race forward. The ability to be out fucking standing. This is where the juice of life is. The real problem is equality. You guys have heard me talk about this 100 times now, probably, But, I am against equality, not against being elite. Power law distributions are perfectly normal in nature, in evolution, and everywhere else we look at in the universe. I've got a quote here that I've written in this article. It says, "This notion of equality is a human perversion fermented by collectivist sociopaths seething with jealousy and envy would like to infect the rest of us with it." There's nothing equal in the world or anywhere else in the universe. Life as we know it is the ultimate expression of uniqueness and inequality. In fact, without inequality, you don't have life. Stasis is the lack of movement, the lack of energy, the end point of entropy, and that's death. Right? I've got another quote here where I've written, "Life is the struggle against equality, against stasis. It is the fight against entropy." Because the end goal of entropy is complete equality, complete stasis, complete balance. True elitism is an expression of our greatest attempts at furthering life, and it's why we're in awe of the greatest of us. Whether it be the minds like, the Newtons and the Einsteins, or, the sports stars like the Federers and the Alis, or entrepreneurs like Jobs and Musks. The freedom of the individual is what, is what gives rise to the ability to be elite, and is the basis, of our prosperity. The equalization of the collective is the death of the human spirit, and in turn will bring about the death of the collective that enforced it. So there's some notes from what I was writing, but when we think about elitism and what it means to be different, and why I call this video "Be Elite and Fuck Average," is that in life, all my life, and this is funny because I've had this admiration for the best of us all my life. I've really strived to grow as a human being, to push myself, to work harder, to be better, to learn more, to become more honest, be a person of integrity, and all these sorts of things. So I've always had an admiration for the best of us, but I felt conflicted when I would shout out against the elite, while simultaneously striving to be the best. And this is why it's really important to delineate this thing. Complaining about elites and elitism not only carries this air of victimhood, which is, it's not attractive, it's fucking pathetic. No one respects that. But, it really is a contradiction. To me, being elite is about being the best. To being courageous, being outstanding, being willing to give it your all, being unique, being a fucking contrarian, being an outsider, being a minority. These days people who, instead of wearing the fact that you're part of a minority with pride, which a lot of Bitcoiners do, a lot of libertarians do, a lot of individualists do, people who claim responsibility, they wear that with pride. You've got these motherfuckers these days running around, being victims, walking around with pride about being a victim, and labeling themselves, as a minority just to get some extra fucking rights instead of claiming responsibility. That's not elite behavior, that's collectivist, sheeple kind of behavior. But, being elite to me is about stepping up when others are afraid to. Elites are leaders. They lead by example from being out in front. And I know I'm driving this point home, but, these are the people who are inspired by it. I love a quote from Arnold where he says, I get more motivated when somebody's told me that this has never been done before. And then that's when I want to do it. Or C.T. Fletcher says it really well. He said, the most inspirational speeches that I've ever heard have come from people that say you can't do this or that this is impossible. The ability to rise up in the face of that is the definition of being someone who is elite and being someone who says, fuck being average. What could be more inspiring than an individual who creates something from nothing, who takes their labor, their time, their effort, their energy to build something? This is profound. This is life. This is how the individual drives the human race forward. And, in my mind, history is remembered and defined mainly through the stories of the best of us. And, we'll pull up a few photos here. Examples of true elites, right? Usain Bolt, Alexander the Great, Bruce Lee, Einstein, Steve Jobs, Stephen Hawking, John Lennon, Muhammad Ali, Nikola Tesla. These people are the elites. These are the people that, who strove for greater heights and drove, the human race forward. And, do they have their flaws? Well, there's a bear shit in the woods. Yes, every human being has flaws. Every individual has flaws. But by and large, they were net positives in society, and they inspired a wave of people to become better individuals, not to become weaker sheep inside a fucking collective. Now, let's pull up some images here of, what I think is meant by elites, by many people, which I would like to now redefine as parasites. So you've got elites here, you've got the greats, you've got the people who strive to be the best, you've got strong, responsible, ethical, moral, driven, passionate, fucking alive individuals in the middle, and then you've got average losers on this side, which you generally see that with these self-loathing fucking white people saying sorry, I'm white, or the leftist SJWs who are offended by everything, and outraged by all of this shit, or just morons who don't fucking think, right? So you've got those averages, and then you've got the parasites on the other side, which like to stoke the fire and encourage these people to be average so that they can keep leeching off the sheep. But in the parasite section, we have things like, people like, I should call them things actually, Mario Draghi, Bernie Sanders, Stalin, Hillary Clinton, Obama, Paul Krugman, Steve Mnuchin, Christine Lagarde. This, I think, is where, what most people have thought of, when they're saying elites. And by and large, it's also the, a lot of Bitcoiners, when we say bring down the elites, that's who we're talking about. Let's remove the label of elite. These pricks aren't elites. They're scum. They're parasites. They exist not to produce, but to leech. As Ayn Rand perfectly stated in Atlas Shrugged, in most of her work, they are the looters and the moochers. They don't produce anything. They don't add value. They they give themselves special privileges that the rest of us can't have, and that's parasitic behavior, not elite behavior. So, all in all, that's my rant on being elite, on getting rid of this notion of being average, on being another number, and really trying to delineate between where we sling these notions and who we direct them at. Because what we don't want to do is we don't want to fire people up so that they resent the entrepreneurs, the creators, the builders, the visionaries, and all of that, because those are the people that you and I are inspired by, and that we want to strive to be in our own way. I'm not saying to be a copy of somebody else. I'm saying to be a fucking individual who is the best at who you are, not to be just like somebody else. Fuck equality, fuck average, fuck conformity, fuck the collective. Be a strong, ethical, moral, responsible individual. Be the best version of yourself. Be fucking elite. That's my message. See you in the next episode.